Now, just to dig in a little bit further on this, at first, it wasn't very apparent what happened with the data breaches that originally happened in the UK with regards to the retail stores. So we can kind of get a sense of what might be going on here by having me go back and basically figure it out. So I found this article, and it has to do with dragonforce. Now, if you're a regular watcher, you might have heard of dragonforce before. Let's just read a little bit and we'll get a sense of what the heck happened here. So obviously we know they got access to a significant number of details. We've already gone through that, yada, yada, yada. Let me just see if I can zoom in without ruining everything here. I think that looks fine. So we have attacks that occurred on April 22nd. Marks and Spencer was hit. We already went through that. Now, apparently, the actors reportedly conducted a social engineering attack that allowed them to reset an employee's password, which was then used to breach the network. Now, this is something that I didn't have information on when I originally covered the UK cyber attack stuff. Well, now we have the data. Once they gained access to the network, they used the Active Directory services that contains passwords for Windows accounts, and then they basically just extracted the passwords. The dragonforce ransomware is behind the attack. They're an operation. They're the same hackers who breached Marks and Spencer last week. That was something that we didn't know. So the same people who attacked Co-op and succeeded also attacked Marks and Spencer and succeeded. And I know that there was a third retailer, I believe Harrods, that also had a successful cybersecurity attack, although I could not find evidence that it was the dragonforce ransomware group that did it. They claim to have data from 20 million people who registered for Co-op's membership reward program, which we already covered. Now, how did they do this? The threat actors stated they contacted Co-op's head of cybersecurity and other executives using Microsoft Teams messages, sharing screenshots of the extortion messages with the BBC. I didn't see this. My eyes completely skipped this. Apparently they claimed that they did Harrods as well. There you have it. All three retailers I covered last week, all three of them hit by the same people. Now, the messages were shared with the BBC, but they don't show them here. They absolutely do not show them here. But they have been known to do exactly what we covered yesterday, which is pretend to be a IT support desk. That's why, let me find it again. That's why this works, because they use the exact method we covered on yesterday's Daily Tech News stream. They pretended to be an IT support desk. They contact potentially the head of cybersecurity and they say, look, man, you've got a problem. This is how it operates, right? And you need to change your password. And away you go. No, the BBC article does not have the screenshots. No, there's no screenshot. And I think partially because, if I were to guess, they wouldn't share the screenshots because they would have identifiable information about people involved. So it's probably not a good idea for me to track down the screenshots and show them either. So there you go. So we have, at the very least, we don't have confirmation, right? Like, just because somebody claims that they did this doesn't necessarily mean that they did do it, unless, of course, we find evidence that they did, like the company said, yes, it was them, or they have data that comes directly from these companies. But if we take their word for it, what this means is that 3 massive retail chains in the UK were attacked by one ransomware group successfully. And then the real world consequences come into play, right? And then we have, where is it? Here. A day ago. No, sorry, not a day ago. This comes from February 28th. So this was before, but the timing is, so if you think about it, right? So April, what are we talking about? April something, like mid to late April on this. I can't remember the date off the top of my head. April 20 something, right? February, the banks go down on a unknown IT security issue nobody knows about, right? March passes. What do we not know? April comes along, and then this is what we know. I'm finding the timeline to be very short and very constrained, and the coincidence here is like, my conspiracy theory is going off here. However, this series of attacks in the span of, let's call it 3 months, and the level of success that they're having is crazy. Absolutely crazy. There you go. We're in the wrong business. I don't know what we're doing wrangling code. We could just be doing what these guys do. Absolutely bonkers.